Namaskar everyone and welcome to Desi Talk. We've taken a break for 3 weeks and we're finally back. As you can see, I've had a location change, so I've moved. And I know Yashu also has had a location change and there have been some developments in her life. So I'm excited to kind of catch up with her as well. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the theme of this month, which is South Asian history and literature. And so we have two featured guests who are so incredibly prominent in their field. We're very lucky to have them with us today. And I'm going to Glad to be with you too, Ravi. So Ravi was going to come on our live as an interviewee soon enough. If I can get Yashu into this live. Yashu, are you able to join? If not, I might have to restart this live. Hmm. Yashu, can you just indicate to me if you're able to join? Oh, there we go.
Okay, this is probably the wrong account, but that's okay. Hey, everyone. Wait, okay. Hey. Oh, my gosh.
Hey.
Hold on.
Can you change that?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. Whew.
Awesome. Hey, Yashu. I know. It's been 3 weeks, so it's to be expected.
Listen, I'm trying. I'm really trying here. It's been my brain is on overload right now.
I know. So let's share some good news. It was both of our birthdays in the span of time that we didn't have our lives. So happy birthday to you, Yashu. It was yesterday or day before yesterday? Yesterday, right?
Yesterday. And happy birthday to you, August 11th, right?
Correct. Yes, the big 30. I know I don't look 30, but I am 30 and I feel it in my bones. I feel it when
in her bones. Oh my
I can feel it in my bones. I can feel myself creaking,
oh
when I walk
gosh.
around.
You're so funny.
But yeah, so we both just had our birthdays. I moved. You are not currently in Florida. And you got your
doctorate. I am a
Yay!
Dr.
We have Dr.
Rao.
Yashu Rao in the house. Dr. Yashu Rao. How does it feel to hear doctor?
I'm still not kind of used to it. I'm just everyone's Yashu. So like every time my professors message me or email me, they're like Dr. Rao, and I'm just like, who's that? I'm like, oh,
It's
wait,
you.
that's me. Right? Wait, that's me. Hold on. Yes.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for you. And I know how much work and effort and tears and all of that went into you getting your PhD. So I'm really psyched that you got your PhD and I hope to get mine someday. So let's see how that
Yes,
goes.
all these doctors in the house. Listen.
I know. We have someone joining us that's a doctor too. So I recapped this a little bit earlier, but for people who are joining right now, our theme of this month is South Asian history and literature. We're trying to decolonize our history, so we're presenting people that are in the field, doing the work. And so today we're going to talk to some incredible poets who are actually Desi and have been, working on actually dismantling these stereotypes for a very long time, and both come from very different backgrounds, but I know they're going to have a lot of incredible things to say. They've been on the India Currents Desi poetry readings, and so I know for a fact that they are just, not only are they accomplished, but they are so insightful. So I'm very, very excited to have them come on. So should I introduce the first one? Yes, you want to do? Okay.
Bring them in.
So our first person that we'll be interviewing today is Dr. Ravi Shankar. He is a Pushcart Prize-winning poet, translator, and professor who has published 15 books, including the Muse India award-winning translations Undul, the autobiography of a goddess, and the many uses of mint, new and selected poems from 1997 to 2017. He is he has taught and performed around the world, appeared in print, radio, and TV in such venues as the New York Times, NPR, BBC, and the PBS NewsHour. So we are quite lucky that we got to schedule some time with him. He has won awards to the Corporation of Yadu and the MacDowell Colony, fellowships from the Rhode Island and Connecticut Council on the Arts, and founded one of the oldest electronic journals of the arts called Drunken Boat, and recently finished his PhD, hey Yashu, from the University of Sydney. His memoir, Correctional, is forthcoming in 2021 with the University of Wisconsin Press. So with that, let me welcome Dr. Ravi Shankar. Is he here?
So he just texted me. He just told me that he is running into some technical difficulties, but I've got him to our live right now, and he will be joining momentarily. But while you're, while we're doing that, I definitely want to ask you, how incredible is it that we have this super accomplished, like amazing poet? And I think that's so powerful, right? To bring someone on who's coming from such a background. And I also want to say, like, it's so unique to me that he's from Sydney. I know here on Desi Talk, we talk a lot with people within the US, but, today's episode, we're talking about someone who studied, in a different country, coming with a different background as well. I'm excited. How do you feel? How do you feel?
I think transnational narratives are, universal. As an immigrant, the things that you face and see and talk about are things that other people can relate to. And so I think that no matter what, he'll have a lot to add to the conversation. And I think, yeah, you're totally right. We do generally focus on Desi Americans. So it's good to get insight from someone that's not just a Desi American. And I believe even Indran, who is our second interviewee, is quite global. So I think it'll be very, we get so bogged down in the microcosm of the world that we live in. And it's important to have external influences to understand a lot of things. And even as immigrants, sometimes we lose sight of that. So I'm really excited to get insight into this. If Ravi isn't able to join, we can start with Indran. I believe he's here, so that might be a better move.
Popped up in your queue. Do you see Ravi popped up in your queue at all?
Oh, yes, he did. I will invite him on.
We're going to get him right on board. But yes, and everyone who's tapping in, make sure you stay tuned in, because we have got Indran, who is our other amazing literary magician, who will be joining us soon as well.
Hi!
Oh, I'm here. Okay.
Yay! It's okay. The technical difficulties on Instagram Lives are, we've had them many times, so it's completely understandable. So now that you're here, we gave a full intro about you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, things maybe people might not know about you or about your work?
Yes, and I want to congratulate Yashu on her PhD, because I actually just received mine as well, and I know how much work goes into it.
High five!
Yes, high five! Yes, Doctor, what was the Spies Like Us scene where they have that whole doctor exchange? Well, my family comes from South India, from Tamil Nadu, from Coimbatore and Chennai, and they immigrated. My father came in the late 1960s to go to school, and actually he was one of the first wave of Asian immigrants. As you probably know, the history of immigration in the U.S. is very fraught, and there was the Asian Exclusion Act, and it was in the 1960s that they reversed it and allowed immigrants to come in from non-European countries. And so my father was among that first wave, and he came to go to school at Howard, which I used to think when I was growing up was Harvard, but no, it was actually Howard, which is so interesting to me, because to leave India with all of these dreams and then to arrive in DC at a predominantly African-American school at the time of the civil rights movement. And he was living in DC when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated and the
Wow.
National Guard sent in tanks. Of course, he doesn't talk about it. But my mother has told me all about it. He's kind of a reticent man in some ways.
Why did
But
he choose Howard? Why did he choose Howard over elsewhere?
because he had an uncle who worked for the World Bank who lived in Potomac, Maryland. And so he kind of wanted to stay with his uncle.
That's where I live right now. That's where I'm at right now. I actually went to Howard too. Yeah, I went to Howard as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a great school. And, so I was actually born in Washington, D.C. I kind of grew up in Northern Virginia, where my parents still live in Manassas, known for the Battle of Bull Run and Lorena Bobbitt. Not the most cosmopolitan place on earth. But when I was very young, when I was in third grade, my grandmother had cancer. And so we picked up and we left in the middle of my third grade year and moved back to Chennai. And I went to school there and lived there in the middle of my childhood for almost 18 months. And so I think that was instrumental. It was very difficult at the time. But now that I think back upon it, it really helped forge the connections that I have to India. It helped me with Tamil, my mother tongue. And it was, of course, a very different experience going to school. And it was a convent school. They believed in corporal punishment. So I got kind of wrapped on the knuckles with a ruler, and very different experience. But it was wonderful and colorful. And I played cricket on the rooftops with my cousins. And then I came back to the U.S. And subsequently, of course, my father's a mechanical engineer. I thought I was going to become an aeronautical engineer, but my true love was always literature. And when I went to the University of Virginia, I was initially in the engineering school. And after one semester of taking those classes and being in the computer lab, I thought, this is really not what I want to do. This is not what I'm passionate about. And so I started taking English classes, and I got my degree.
Just side note, Yashu got her degree in engineering. So
oh, you did? Nice.
she just got her doctorate in that. So she's also, much like you, I don't know how much she wants to pursue it. You can talk about it, Yashu. I just thought that was a nice commonality.
I always get so inspired, let's just say that, when I meet people who go, screw it with the what parents probably want to set you up for in terms of being an engineer or doctor thing. I get so inspired. And we've had some amazing guest speakers on India Currents with Desi Talk specifically, where we've interviewed people, who talk about it a lot. But with that being said, I'm just so amazed at I always find it so fascinating when we have people, especially coming from the art scene, especially like poetry and things like that. And I definitely want to kind of get into that, get into, what made you, the topic, like literature is so huge. Had you always been, into poetry or like into specific forms of literature, or, was that a passion that you found later? And then also, and, I don't ask questions alone. I always ask them in like doubles and triples, but also like, is there a common theme for your work? Those are just some of my questions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Maybe start with the first one.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll work in reverse because I am actually a poet primarily. I published a lot of poetry. I've edited anthology of poetry, but I am now a memoirist. And so my memoir, Correctional, comes out in October. A very different kind of revelatory book-length work of prose about immigration, the criminal justice system, academia, the mass media. But I do feel constitutionally like a poet. And, I think part of it was actually going with my parents to Hindu temples in Northern Virginia and Pittsburgh and New York when I was a very young child. And all the slokas were in Sanskrit. And it was a language that I didn't understand. And yet I always would feel really moved by it. And that experience of having an emotional response to a language that I couldn't quite comprehend, I feel like was a kind of a alleyway into poetry for me, because poetry really is the kind of fusion of music, emotion, and intellect. And so I had a high school teacher, I remember Dr. Jacobs, and she introduced us to the beat poets, Allen Ginsberg and the confessional poets, Sylvia Plath and Robert Lowell. And I was just fascinated by that. And I especially like the way that, and maybe this is the engineer in me that's still there, the way that you can pattern language with almost mathematical precision, and the ways that different forms can kind of, it's almost like doing a puzzle or assembling a clock or something. And so I take great satisfaction in kind of shaping language until it gets close enough to what it is that I think and feel. And I think really after I graduated, I went to the University of Virginia, and then I worked in publishing, and I got my MFA at Columbia. And that was really when I went to graduate school that I started taking writing much more seriously. And I was exposed to a big breadth of writers, although I will say not as many non-Western writers as I should have been, and certainly not any Indian writers. I hope it seems like that is changing, but back when I was at Columbia in the late 90s, I think maybe Langston Hughes and Robert Hayden or something were the only two poets of color that we read. So, and I was one of the only, there was another Desi poet in my class, Rafi Katwari. He and I
You remember him?
Yes, Rafi. We're still in touch. He writes me from time to time, and we were the only two people of color in the entire workshop. And so that was also kind of an interesting experience.
I think that I just want to note that I think that really speaks to academia too, right? Because even now that we've talked to quite a few like authors and writers and people that are, you know, of South Asian descent pursuing these careers. And a lot of them don't pursue it academically. They'll do something else first, like, oh, I'll go be an accountant. I'll go be a computer engineer. I'll go do whatever. And then at some point in their life, they come to almost the conclusion you came to much earlier than they did. But, you know, like, this is not my passion. This isn't what I wanted to do with my life. So I'm going to, on the side, start writing, or I'm going to start doing this. So it's actually unfortunate because you don't get this exposure to, you know, people of color in like the spaces where you're learning. Rather, they like do a lot of that learning and the burden of like taking on and reading and really like processing things on their own, which I think is like a crazy experience. So I feel like you might have had a very unique one where, I mean, I don't know if you had other people to resonate with what you were learning, but you were getting to do that in like a physical space with people. And I don't know, what do you think? Was that like beneficial to your process?
Yes, yeah, it was. I mean, it was the first time that I was around another group of people that took writing really seriously and engaged with it. And, you know, the thing is, Indian culture, of course, it has such richness when it comes to the arts and literature. I mean, if you look at the Sangam era poets and Bhakti poetry and the Rig Veda, you know, just on Land's End, India, Kanyakumari, you have a statue of Tiruvallur. And so there's this deep history. And so the resistance that my parents and many South Asian parents have is not historically based. But I get it. They, you know, my parents wanted me to be safe and professional. And when I said I wanted to study poetry, they flipped out. They didn't like it at all. But I said, you know, I'm going to just take it as far as I can go. And thankfully, after I finished Columbia, I worked at a literary agency, and I managed to get a teaching position, teaching creative writing. And from, you know, then on, I was able to kind of really take myself as a writer more seriously. But, you know, it's funny, even after I was a tenured full professor, my father would still send me clippings from the newspaper with a computer class, like, it's not too late to keep writing as a hobby.
Yeah, I'm sure that most of us face that. Yashu, yeah, you were gonna say something?
I'm not gonna lie, I just really am excited to hear a poem and just, but before that, I definitely do want to just ask, like, is there a theme that we should be looking for?
Oh, yes, I didn't answer that question of your many questions. Yes. Themes. Well, you know, sometimes when I'm asked, when you tell someone you're a poet, it's pretty rare. It's like being a philosopher, and people often want to know, well, what are your poems about? And my answer often is that, well, if I could tell you what they were about, they wouldn't be very good poems because they're inseparable from the way that they're written, and the form and the music, all of that is part of it. But of course, like any poet, I have to write about love and loss. I write a lot about identity and travel. I've been lucky enough to travel around the world, as was mentioned. I lived in Sydney for a while, and that experience of being in another place, I find really inspiring. And then also responding to other works of art and literature and, you know, the conversations that we're having. I think sometimes there's this idea that poetry has to be about these big, meaningful, transcendent subjects. But of course, that's not true. Poetry can be about the quotidian, the everyday.
Hmm.
It can be about all kinds of different things. And so, yeah, I think that in my, the one constant is the multiplicity in my work. Every poetic project I undertake, I try to do something different, either in terms of perspective or theme. I had one book that was all, I call them neo-pastoral poems, and so all about the external landscape in some way. I had one book of poems that was all collaborative. And so I collaborated with almost 25 different poets. I sent them all starting lines, and I said, if any of these speak to you,
That's
build on
cool.
it and send it back to me. And we went back and forth. It was like a little jazz riff between us. And
Yes.
the amazing thing is, when I look at that book again, I can't tell in some of those poems what I wrote and what the other poet wrote,
Mm.
which is so cool. It's like a third voice emerges from both of us coming together in some way. So yes, those are some of the themes. And I have a few poems I was thinking of reading, but I don't know thematically. Do you have any requests? Should I read something about my Desi upbringing, or just something totally unrelated?
I
Well,
think
so we want you to do one poem now and then maybe close out with a poem. So you can pick two. Maybe one can be about your identity and the second one can be about something very, like you said, quotidian, if you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so I'll start with this. This is kind of autobiographical poem. I mentioned that I had this bicultural experience growing up, and it's about that. And a couple of, it's really nice to be with an audience where I don't have to define what a bindi is, or what masala chai or a lungi is, because these are all words in this poem I usually have to define. There is one word, epiphyte. An epiphyte is a rootless plant, an air plant, like that grows on top of other
Hmm.
plants. So this poem, which is kind of about my upbringing as a bicultural Indian American, is called Exile. Exile. There's nowhere else I'd rather not be than here. But here I am, nonetheless, dispossessed. Though not quite, because I never owned what's been taken from me. Never have belonged into a place, a people, a common history. Even as a child, when I was slurred in school, towelhead, dot boy, camel jockey, none of the abuse was precise. Only Sikhs wear turbans, widows and young girls bindis. Not one species of camel is indigenous to India. If, as Simone Weil writes, to be rooted is the most important and least recognized need of the human soul, behold, I am an epiphyte. I conjure sustenance from thin air, and the smell of both camphor and meatloaf equally repel me. I've worn a lungi pulled between my legs, done designer drugs while subwoofers throbbed, sipped masala chai steaming from a tin cup, driven a Dodge across the Verrazano in rush hour, and always to some degree felt extraneous, like a meteorite happened upon bingo night. This alien feeling, honed in aloneness to an edge, uses me to carve an appropriate mask each morning. I'm still unsure what effect it has on my soul. Thank you.
Wow. Yes. I definitely think, yeah, you don't have to explain that feeling to us because I think, if anything, we very much resonate with that feeling of being other and just feeling so alien in your own skin. Yeah, Farzana says the epiphyte metaphor is terrific. It really is. The idea of like gaining sustenance from things that don't exist almost. Um, Yashu, what do you think?
I, first of all, would like to say I love the fact that your tone changed, your energy changed as you were delivering this poem. Like, I think that's so powerful. Storytelling is something that I think is just, something I really love. And it's something that I always found so engaging with your audience. And I think with poetry, right, a lot of times, I remember in high school, at least, like my English teacher would like read this poem and I would be so lost. Like, I wouldn't know what was going on. And I feel like a lot of times it's because they were just so dead at saying the poetry with the same energy that the author might have delivered it at. So that's the first thing that I was just like, I love.
Yeah. I think what you're saying kind of reminds me of what Ravi was saying earlier, which was that when he went and he heard Sanskrit shlokas being recited, and that idea of like almost connecting with something and resonating with it just by its tonality, that's very largely part of, you know, Indian culture. So I think that you're very much embodying, what I'm hearing is that you felt that and I felt that too, but also just like the pace at which you're kind of delivering it feels kind of like choppy too to me, which makes me feel like a little uncomfortable, which I think is kind of nice because I'm uncomfortable. You know, like the idea of uncomfortability is like what you're trying to convey. So I really enjoyed it.
Because I'm South Indian too, I think, you know, like I come from Telugu Tamil background as well. Like for me, I'm able to relate to some of these things, like the lungi between my legs, like, you know, immediately, like I'm picturing this, like I see my father, you know, like I know that's how he ties his lungi too, or dhoti, or whatever you call it, right? So like just some.
But then driving a Dodge across, you know, like across the country, like I've definitely done both of those things and been like, this is, when I've driven across the country, I felt so strange in some places because I felt like, oh, like I'm the only person of color in this space right now. Like I'd walk into a bar, I'd walk into a grocery store. I'm literally the only person of any skin color that's not white. And you're just like, this is, maybe I'll go back to where I know I'm like, there's other people that look like me. But yeah, I don't mean to cut you off. I think you should definitely give your second poem before we move on to the next person, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. So I'll give you one more, and I know I'll keep them short because the other one I had was a little bit longer. So I'll read a shorter one, which is one of these collaborations I was talking to you about. And this collaboration was with Connecticut poet Nancy Kuehl, she's the poetry curator at the Beinecke Library. And I want to read this particularly because it started out as one of the longest collaborations in the entire book. It was like a 10-page poem, and then we revised it collaboratively as well. And so when Nancy started hacking bits of my work and sent it back to me, and I was like, oh, I'm going to hack some of yours. And we went back and forth until what's left actually became one of the shortest poems in the entire book. And I thought that was a kind of an amazing exercise in distillation in some way. Mm-hmm. And, so this is a little bit of a different poem, but it's called Broca's Area, which is the part of the brain that processes language. And it's a collaborative poem with Nancy Kuehl. Broca's Area. No beveled jewel, jagged rock-faced cliff edge where mountain dreams itself to mist from riverbed. No ancient fault line, no memory of catastrophe, only breath. One enters, another departs. This is the perpetual discordance between thinking and thought, an impossible figure, preserved groove and catch, fixed into flux, fossilized, finalized, a form we almost recognize, a feather or bone, the skin, the shell, the body, that intimate shape, like a name or any word held too long on the tongue.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So visual. Love that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not very musical, but I think that's the closest to being like an improvisational musician I'll ever get. You know, I totally encourage collaboration, partly because half the work is done for you when you collaborate with someone else, which is kind of nice. But no, it really does push you in directions you never expected to go. And that's one of those poems I was mentioning that I don't really know in the end what was mine and what was Nancy's, and this thing kind of merged. So it was very cool.
And where can people find your work? I'm actually really interested in this collaborative, you know, collection that you have here. Where can people find your work? Where can we read more of what you have beautifully constructed with words?
So you can find me at website poetravishankar.com, and then I'm also on Twitter and Instagram under EMPURPLER, EMPURPLER.
Can I ask what EMPURPLER mean? Because I was wondering that.
Yes. So when I was in graduate school, I had a professor, Lucy Brock-Broido, who sadly has passed away. She's known for having this mystical sensibility and this fabulously long hair. And she called me in workshop once. She called me an over-impurpler, meaning that she thought that I just kind of took too much delight in all of these esoteric words and sounds, and she wanted me to be more minimalist, I think. But I actually took that and I said, you know what? I'm going to take this as a compliment, and I'm actually going to become an impurpler. So to impurple means to turn something purple or to kind of make it more luscious and rich than it actually is. So that's where
I love that.
Okay.
And I'll just say, those people who are interested, correctional, my memoir is coming out with University of Wisconsin Press in October, so keep your eyes open.
Yes, I definitely want to get this memoir. It sounds like it's all the themes of things that I think are meaty and interesting. So I want that. I want that book. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ravi, for joining us. We're so lucky to have you. I mean, honestly, the fact that you made time to come on here is incredible. So
Thank you both. I love what India Currents does, and I'm a big fan, so thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ravi. All right, you can press that X button at the top of your screen.
All right, see you all. Stay safe.
Bye.
Stay inspired.
Bye.
Yes, stay safe. So Yashu has to come back, but our next interviewee, I will have to bring him on. I don't know if she's coming back or not. But our next interviewee is Indran. I will give his short bio in a second if I can figure out what happened to Yashu. All right. Well, let me give a short bio for Indran while we wait. If I can figure out. Hey, Yashu, can you join back in? Oh, you sent me a request. It's hard to talk and also do technical things on here at the same time. Let me try again. Yashu, can you join, please? Or let me know if it's working. Oh, okay, there we go.
And we live.
Second time. All right, cool. You're not showing up.
Yes, I'm about to. Okay, boom. I think this worked. Okay, that worked.
All right, that's fine. We're back. All right, so I just want to introduce Indran. So Indran Amirthanayangam writes poetry in English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. He has published over 20 books, including Blue Window, The Migrant States, Sur l'île nostalgique, Lyrica a tiempo, Uncivil War, and more. He hosts the poetry channel on YouTube and edits the Beltway Poetry Quarterly. Amirthanayangam is a 2021 Emergent Seed winner and a fellow of the Foundation for the Contemporary Arts, the New York Foundation for the Arts, the U.S.-Mexico Fund for Culture, and the MacDowell Colony. The Elephants of Reckoning won the Patterson Poetry Prize. Welcome, Indran, and I'm so sorry if I messed up any of the words. Please correct me. I will try to say them correctly. Let's see if he's able to join.
Listen, Instagram is not letting us be amazing today. And listen,
it's this 3 week. We took a 3-week break and then we came back with technical difficulties. Indran, please let me know if you're able to join.
Too many things going on.
I know.
But, just kind of recapping on Ravi Shankar, and for those of you who may have missed this episode where we went over some of his amazing pieces, of which one is like a collaborative with 25, I think he said, different poets, be sure to check out India Currents. Okay, be sure to check out Desi Talk. You'll be able to find that in the IGTV section. And of course, you can check it out at poetRavishankar.com. All right, so definitely check that out. Indran is our next poet, who is, again, an amazing literary magician. I'm so excited to have him come on board here. We're trying to go through these Instagram.
Indran, I have sent you an invite. It seems like it's not working.
If you can exit out and then try to come back in, maybe we'll try to see if that'll work. Like I said, I feel like Instagram never wants us to do our job.
I mean, worst case scenario, we can have Indran join us next time, but I'm hoping it'll work right now.
Yeah, I think if you can exit out and try to come back in, it should be okay. But in the meantime, hello viewers. Again, I know it's been a while. Srishti, what is new with you, Srishti? Let's just recap a little bit.
What's new? Look at this. I'm in a new apartment. I'm in a new place. So that's new. Moving was rough. Okay, it says, okay, let's see if I can find him now.
I actually really like this crib. I love all the plants that you put everywhere.
So I had all the plants in my last place too, but the thing was I had set up my office in my bedroom. So there was like less stuff in there. And because obviously not as much space, but now I'm in my living room because I was like, I'm always like sleeping and working in the same space is just traumatizing. I was like, I don't want to be near my bed right now. So I put my desk in the living room so that I can work out here and then sleep in the bedroom, which is much better. Like there's like a separation of space and all of that. It seems like, Indran, can you send me an invite if it's not working on my end? You can just say request to go live and I'll get that request and we'll try that way. Because I already sent you an invite and it's not letting you join.
As for updates with me, yes, I am currently in Washington, D.C., for everyone who may not know. But I will be flying back to Gainesville tomorrow. For those of you who have been anticipating this graduation and birthday celebration party and have been DMing me for that. It's going to happen.
Indran, we have requested you to go live. It shows me that I've requested it. Either you're not getting my request or you need to request me and I can try to add you, but it seems like on your end, maybe your phone I don't know if you've gone live before, but if you haven't, there's some technical difficulties usually the first time. Are you able to join? Let me know. Sorry to cut you off, Yashu.
No, it's okay. I'm trying to engage our viewers here too.
Yeah. I know, you should.
Part of this process real quick. But yeah, I will be back in Florida.
When are you going back?
Tomorrow. I'll be flying back tomorrow, and then I'll be coming back here again. Yashu,
how do you request to go live? I think there should just be like a little icon next to, where you type, and it should say like request to go live with whomever.
Yeah. So at the bottom of your screen where it says, add a comment, you should see a little video, like a camera video symbol with a little plus sign in it. If you can go ahead and press that, it's going to send us a request. If you're not seeing that, I would suggest if you can please exit out of this, like go outside, maybe restart your app, come back into the live and try that one more time. And if not, like Srishti was saying, sometimes technology just doesn't let us be great, and we just have to kind of like, take that one for the day. But we will definitely reschedule it because we do not want to miss what Indran has to offer for us today with his amazing work. So we're gonna give it one more try, one more solid try. Srishti, what do you think?
Yeah, and then I would say try updating the app if it's not working for you like this, because I've already requested you and it's showing me that I've requested you, and I'm requesting you again. You can try again, but if it's not working, then we can just reschedule you for another time. I'm so sorry about this.
But for those of you who are tapping in, if you enjoyed our episode today on Desi literary, like, just amazingness, poetry specifically. Be sure to drop some love in the comments, drop a heart, drop a something, so that we can recognize Dr. Ravi Shankar for coming in today, as well as Indran, who will hopefully be able to join us today. If not, we'll definitely get him on board for you guys soon. Super soon. Super, super soon.
Awesome. Yeah. This
Look at my
is
bright old room. This is like, why did I choose this wall color? Like, I don't
what is
even
it?
know.
What is the color? Is it like light green? It looks like
Yeah,
green.
like light mint green. I'm
It's
sitting
not a
here.
bad
Like,
color.
no. I was like, what were you thinking, Yashu?
I feel like, yeah, the one good thing I did when I moved home, which I did like 4 or 5 years ago, was I completely changed my room as soon as I got back because it was preserved. It was like preserved 8 years. Like 8 years, it sat like exactly the way it had been, and I was like, I can't live like this. This is giving me nightmares about a push. Like, we gotta change something up.
And I love
So
how our Desi parents, like, keep the room untouched, you know?
yeah.
Untouched.
They're like, you're gonna come back and live with us forever because this is why we gave birth to you. And I'm like, you left your parents when you were 20 something. Don't forget that. Whenever I go home, my parents try to guilt me. They're like, why can't you just live with us? Why don't you just live at home? And I'm like, I'm 30 years old. I can't live with you right now.
My mom, literally, I told my mom this morning, like, hey, I just booked my flight back to Gainesville. My mom, like, gave me the silent treatment all morning. I'm like, why are you mad? And she's like, you couldn't stay a few more days? You couldn't stay a few more days? That's it. You just want to run away the minute you come home. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not done yet. Just because I got my doctor doesn't mean I'm done. I got to go, like, clean out the labs and, like, you know, I got to go take care of business. Like, the university reached out and my mom was just like, whatever. You just don't want to be here. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, I think it might not work for Indran. I don't know where he is. I've invited him. Well, I'm glad we were able to get Ravi to come on and at least even drop some poetry on us. Honestly, he could come back and give us a few more if he wants.
Yes,
But
let's get Ravi Shankar back on here. Let's get him back on here.
oh, okay, Indran is back. Let's see if I can see if he can join now.
Fingers
Because
crossed.
sometimes it has something to do with like your phone. If you like not compatible with the live settings, remember our first live got deleted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was pretty sad.
It was. It was a really cool episode too.
I know. And then it seems like you might have to really update your app because I'm inviting you, you're not seeing it, and you're not able to request to go live, which should be pretty simple. It should be that button at the bottom. So what we can do is maybe we can troubleshoot for another day. We'll try to go live with you before we go live, and then you can see if it works the next time. So I don't know. Indran, are you okay with that? Give me a thumbs up. Am I seeing it? I don't know. I've invited you, so you would just have to click a button, right? Yashu, when I invite you, is it just a button you have to click to join?
Yeah, so like when you send me a request, it'll pop up for me and I accept it. It'll say like accept.
Right. So you're not seeing my request, it seems. Are you seeing my request, Indran? It should be there. If not, I think 6:47. I think we wouldn't even have enough time to do an interview with you at this point. So for Instagram caps you at an hour, just FYI for anyone who didn't know that. So we're just gonna call it a day. Indran, we'll shoot you an email. We'll troubleshoot next time. Make sure you're able to get on. We can do it in the next 2 weeks. So I'll try sending it again, but we'll only have 5 minutes.
But thank you all so much for being patient through this process. I know it's definitely been a little sticky, icky, but we'll figure it out. Hopefully when we post this on India Currents page, we're going to crop out the second half part of it where everything kind of technologically did not work out. We'll be able to crop the video and get that out. So you don't have to worry. You can still send this video to people. They don't have to see all of this part. But with that being said, I am Yashu Rao, plus model, confidence coach, founder and CEO of Air Studios. I'm sorry, did I say Yashu Rao? I'm Dr. Rao, okay. My new
Yes,
flex, okay?
yes. You need to put that on every handle and everything you possibly can. Dr. Rao, all right.
But my amazing co-host.
Hi, I'm Srishti Prabha, the managing editor at India Currents. Definitely join us next week. We're back and we're ready to go. We'll have another interviewee. It is Farzana Doctor, who has written a wonderful book that I think you guys should all learn a little bit about. So we'll see you next week. We'll figure out how to get Indran on next time or the time after, and we'll keep going.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Rao, I can't believe you're a doctor now. I'm so happy for you.
I'm happy. Peace and love. Peace and love, everybody.
Bye.
Make sure you crop this part out.